First servicing mission were more than prepared to repair Hubble. When December 2nd, 1993 finally came, NASA was ready.
And we have liftoff of the Space Shuttle Endeavour on an ambitious mission to service the Hubble Space Telescope.
Roll program, Houston. Roger, roll, Endeavour.
Successfully, they navigated installing new solar rays that would not expand and contract when they went in and out of sunlight, allowing Hubble to remain steady when taking photos. They replaced failing gyroscopes and magnetometers, enabling for more accurate manipulation of the telescope's orientation. Installed a wide-field planetary camera too, which had 48 color filters covering a spectral range from ultraviolet to visible wavelengths, and housed extra mirrors to correct for the flaw in Hubble's main mirror. And of course, they adjusted the Hubble Space Telescope's vision with the Corrective Optics Space Telescope Axial Replacement, or COSTAR, that acted almost like a pair of glasses for the primary mirror, fixing the spherical apparition for the rest of Hubble's instruments. After 5 days of intense repairs and maintenance, the Hubble Space Telescope was back up and running.
Hey! Right there!
Pictures are remarkable. The science that will come from the pictures are of historical significance.
And now we are able to clearly see this. The first servicing mission to Hubble restored the telescope's original expectations, and then so much more. Without it, the Hubble Space Telescope, and NASA for that reason, might not be where it is today, over 30 years later. Thanks to the Hubble Space Telescope and the team behind Servicing Mission 1, we can now behold these amazing astronomical encounters.
STEM fans, are you ready? Let's hear it for the world-class NASA STEM Stars team. From NASA centers across the country, we present Chris Gunn.
Hey, STEM fans, welcome to this week's episode of STEM Stars. It's a chance where we get a moment or time to reflect and see what's going on at NASA and chat with STEM professionals from all across the agency. I'm so excited to welcome our guest today. But before we get started, my name's Jen Hudgens, and I'm coming to you from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. It's a little bit rainy today, but we're going to keep that rain away. We're going to talk about something exciting, the James Webb Space Telescope. So our guest today is Chris Gunn. He is a photographer with the program and with NASA. So I'm really excited to find out what you actually do as a photographer when you work for NASA. And I want to share with you what our agenda is going to be for today. So we're going to chat with Chris. We're going to meet him, find out what his background is, his education, find out how he got started as a photographer at NASA. You'll have a chance to ask all the questions that you have in the chat box. And we're going to learn more about what your mission will be at the end of today's episode, and then what's going to be on next at NASA STEM Stars. So if you have any questions along the way in today's chat, drop them in the box and we'll get those to Chris as soon as possible. So welcome, Chris. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
So you work out at the Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland. So hopefully
I do.
your weather is a little bit better than ours today.
It's
Do you
really, really
mind
nice.
sharing? Oh, good, good. I'm glad to hear that. I wish it was nice here. Ugh, it's thundering and lightning and storming outside. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what are you interested in outside of your job at NASA as a photographer?
Well, I'm Chris Gunn. I do work at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center as a photographer. I really enjoy cycling on my off time and working on cars. Um, my interests outside of work tend to revolve around science and science communication, just learning more and more about science of all types, especially space exploration and photographic art.
Can you talk a little bit about science communications? What does that entail?
Science communications, I guess, is what really got me involved in science to begin with. When I was a kid, I loved reading. And I loved reading books that made science digestible for me, that I could understand. And I think science communications revolves around having scientists and engineers, anybody in any science field, boil it down so that the average person can understand the science, right? So to interest everyone from young and old. So that's science.
So, yeah, I was kind of storytelling in whatever medium that you decide.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm involved in science communications because I create wonderful illustrations of the James Webb Space Telescope. That's the current project that I'm working on.
So I was going to say, is there a degree for science?
And part of that communication is writing, imagery, that's illustrations, that's photographs. In fact, if you think about one of NASA's most famous missions, the Apollo mission to the moon, we wouldn't know anything about it if there weren't photographs, right? So photography
Exactly.
is part of NASA's mission. That's how I view it.
So we had a student ask a question, actually. Do you have a favorite photograph or testing milestone that you enjoyed photographing the most?
Well, I've been working on the James Webb Space Telescope for the last 10 years, and I could probably count to 4 or 5 images that are some of my favorites to date. And I'm actually going to show you some of those later. Well, in fact, here are some of my favorites actually.